Welcome to the Elevating Leaders series, where we go beyond the headlines and straight to the people who are redefining Insurtech and business transformation. We've caught up with the visionaries and the pioneers that are currently driving the industry forward, bringing you exclusive insights, strategies, and stories you won't hear anywhere else. If you're ready to go deeper, this is your front row seat to the future of insurance. I'm Miguel Edwards, and this is 5 Minutes. Brian, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you coming on 5 Minutes episode. There is a question that I like to lead every one of these episodes off with, because how a person arrives into the insurance industry is always a very unique story. Because I don't think anybody ever says, hey, I want a career in insurance. So take us to that fateful moment that you got sucked into what we do.
Oh man, I may actually be your first one. So
you went to school to be an actuary.
I was a senior in high school, and I wanted to do something with like math and business together.
Okay.
Because I knew I liked math, and I wanted to be able to apply it. I didn't want to be a math professor, or theoretical mathematician, or whatever. So math and business sound nice, and I had my calculus teacher was like, "Hey, have you thought about being an actuary?" And I was like, well, "Tell me more about that." And he was like, yeah, they kind of do some like pricing stuff. I don't really know, but it sounds like something that you'd be interested in. So I did a couple of job shadows, which was interesting to, I don't know if you've met many actuaries, but job shadowing an actuary is not a particularly dynamic scenario. But so it was enough of like conversation with the actuaries of like, all right, well, there's one that like I can continue to solve math problems, which is like super fun.
Right.
Or you can move into like management somewhere down the line, because I met like entry-level actuaries and then like some VPs who were like, well, I don't really do actuarial work anymore. I mostly manage people. And like having that kind of, I don't know, career fork at some point in the line was appealing to me, that I was interested in. So I went to college with actuarial science in mind, and graduated, finished the exams, and here we are.
There you go. That's awesome. So yeah, you are my first, man. I've never had the pleasure. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. So talk to us a little bit now about the role that you play, because you are now steeped in senior management now. Talk a little bit about the role you're in now and what you're doing.
Sure. So I manage one of the P&Ls at Mutual of Omaha. So individually sold life products, individually sold annuity products, individually sold health products. There's a few that are outside, final expense is not, and Medicare supplement are not like under the umbrella, but the rest of them pretty much are. So everything end to end, from we've got a sales team, a marketing team, all the way through claims and everything in between, underwriting, policy admin, all that stuff kind of falls under the umbrella.
Got it.
And then get to deal with pressures from finance and budgets and expenses and all the other stuff that gets to go along with it. A couple of product actuaries that we get to work with. So it's fun. Yeah, it's fun, but there's a lot going on.
And I got to believe, Brian, that you have to be one of the first, because if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago, you were a chief data officer.
I was, yeah.
So take me from chief data officer to owning a P&L. That's not something you see too often either.
Well, yeah, I guess it starts with being an actuary, where like I did work on product development across the board, and then did a couple of corporate stints, including innovation, which is how I got connected to ITC, and why I keep coming back year after year, is because it's fun to see a bunch of folks that I've built relationships with, like you. And then managed another P&L, the final expense business unit, for, a couple of years.
Right.
Went off and did a stint in IT, including chief data officer.
Right.
And then this P&L opened back up, and I was like, man, I do kind of miss being able to like shape a customer experience, build a product, like kind of test the theories that you've got against the market, rather than continue to build like internal things, which, don't get me wrong, internal customers are great and fun, but like the external customers, where people are giving you their hard-earned dollars, like that's where the real rubber hits the road, and that's where it's fun for me, and hopefully the rest of the team too.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. That makes a lot of good sense. I didn't realize you had prior P&L experience, so now it maps for me now a little bit better. I get it. Good. But you mentioned innovation was also too a critical piece of your journey, and we're here at an innovation conference. So what does innovation mean for you in your P&L, and how are you looking at things on the innovation lens?
Boy, one of the great things I learned in the innovation role is like how to think small and then scale. So one of the really maybe challenges of working at a large company is you want to make really big like cost benefit decisions. And like a lot of times people will say, well, that doesn't hit like the minimum threshold. Like I don't care because it's not big enough. So I'm not going to do it because it's not big enough. One of the fun things, again, I learned in innovation is like, well, I can test a theory and I can see what the scale of that looks like, but I actually, that theory may be so wild that I can't commit a full rollout to see what that scale looks like, because I just don't know if that's going to work in the market.
Right.
So what I do try and design, back to the innovation question, I do try and design like either product ideas or experiments from a marketing standpoint or a sales standpoint that are small enough that will give you a statistically significant like result that will tell you whether to keep going or whether to stop.
Right.
And you try and do that in a way that is like, and that's counterintuitive to Mutual of Omaha, because we tend to think like, well, I need a really big CBA in order to commit to something like that. But I do try and carve off a few people, because you can't get everybody involved, a few people, a few experiments, and try and run several of them at a time to try and figure out like, is that something that's worthwhile to grow from A to B?
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.